Every year, millions of people around the world fast from sunrise to sunset for Ramadan. And, beyond its deep spiritual meaning, have you ever wondered what's actually happening inside your body? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down the science of what a month of fasting really does.
So let's get right to it. It's a simple question, but the answer? It's surprisingly complex. I mean, does fasting automatically lead to weight loss? Does it actually make you healthier in the long run? Or do things kind of just snap right back to where they were before? We're going to follow the data and find out together.
Okay, so first things first. How do we even measure the effects? Well, scientists often start with a tool you've probably heard of, the body mass index, or BMI. It's basically a simple way to track changes in your body weight relative to your height. Think of it as our yardstick for understanding the data we're about to dive into. All right, so let's start with the big picture. When researchers gather up all the data from all these different studies, what's the general trend they see during Ramadan? What's the headline? Well, the headline finding is pretty clear. A huge scientific review from 2021 found that, yep, on average, people do see a drop in both their body weight and their fat mass. So the fasting period absolutely has a measurable physical effect. But, and this is a big but, the story does not end there. This is where things get a little more interesting, a little more nuanced. A study that focused on students in Pakistan saw this exact trend, a small but noticeable weight reduction by the end of the month. But the real question became, what happens when everyone stops fasting? And that's the catch. The study found that for a lot of people, the weight they lost during Ramadan came right back, usually within just a few weeks. This tells us that while fasting can definitely change things in the short term, whether it lasts really depends on what happens after Ramadan is over. So that makes you wonder. If the effects don't always stick around, is losing weight even the most common thing that happens? Well, as it turns out, what happens to one person can be wildly different from the next. Okay, now this is fascinating. This data comes from a study of Indian Muslims, and it is super revealing. Just look at this breakdown. Only about a third of the people actually lost weight. The biggest group, almost half, just stayed the same. And get this, more than 20% actually gained weight during the month of fasting. So this is the big puzzle, right? If everyone is following the same fasting schedule, how on earth are the results all over the map? What's the secret sauce that separates the people who lose weight from those who gain it? Well, the answer, as you might have already guessed, has a lot less to do with the fasting itself and everything to do with what happens in the hours when you're not fasting. A study from Turkey really nailed down what was going on. Researchers found that things like eating more fatty foods, snacking more often, eating when you're not even hungry, having bigger portions, and, of course, moving around less, all of these things were tightly linked to weight gain, even during Ramadan. It just goes to show you it's not just when you eat, it's what you eat and how much. And that really brings us to the core lesson here. The fasting itself sort of opens a door to change, but it's your daily habits and behaviors that decide if you walk through it and just how far you go. You know, in health science, there's this number that keeps popping up when we talk about really meaningful, health-improving weight loss. And that number is 5%. Losing 5% or more of your body weight, well, that's when the real magic starts to happen deep inside your body. So here's why that 5% is such a game changer. If you lose less than that, you'll see some modest changes, which is great. But once you cross that 5% threshold, research shows you start torching significant amounts of what's called visceral fat. That's the really dangerous stuff, the deep, internal fat that wraps around your organs. Since most of the weight loss during Ramadan is pretty modest, often below this 5% mark, a lot of people might not be getting those deeper health benefits. And that, right there, is the heart of it all. The fast creates the opportunity for change. It sets the stage. But it's the choices you make about the food you eat and how much you move that write the final story. Those choices are what create the real outcome.
So let's zoom out. What's the real lesson here? Is this all just about a number on a scale for 1 month out of the year? The research suggests we should probably be thinking a little bigger than that. Because here's the really cool part. Even if the weight loss is small, science shows it can still kickstart some amazing positive changes. Researchers have seen improvements in insulin sensitivity, which just means your body gets way better at managing blood sugar, and better cholesterol levels. These are huge wins for your long-term health, and it shows that Ramadan can be a really powerful catalyst for good.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. The month of Ramadan really shines a spotlight on just how much our daily choices about food, about activity, about being mindful, truly impact our bodies.
So the real question isn't just about what happens during this 1 month. It's about how the lessons you learn, the discipline, the awareness, how all of that can shape your health for the other 11 months of the year.